Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you see our good buddy Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. Of course, Sean joins us on the regular. We're going to talk some recruiting today. Sean's the recruiting specialist there, as well as talk Iowa Hawkeye men's and women's basketball, and then also recruiting for football. So not just basketball. So Sean's got that all covered. And then we'll close out our third and final segment with our sports betting segment today with Scott Pritchard, Scotty P, Northeast Iowa native in Vegas, doing very well as a professional sports bettor. So Sean, we'll get to it right away with you since there's so much to cover. And again, we'll talk men's and women's basketball in segment two. So thank you for joining us for the first two segments today, agreeing to do that.
Yeah, Mark Gronowski was the big addition, obviously, last week. Iowa was able to get that one done. It's stung a little bit missing out on Bo Prabula to Missouri, but I think Iowa got the guy that they really wanted from the jump. I mean, they recruited Gronowski a little bit in high school. He wasn't really a heavily sought after recruit. It was more of a preferred walk on kind of guy. And, you saw what he did at South Dakota State throughout his career in Brookings. And, even though it's at the FCS level, like that's still very impressive. And I think there was some hope last season or last portal cycle, a year ago that Gronowski would maybe enter the transfer portal and, Iowa would be the first school to kind of get involved there. Obviously didn't happen. Go forward a year later, Gronowski's season ends in the FCS semifinals. Still is a really good year with South Dakota State, but not the year that he's had in the past. I mean, obviously winning the Walter Payton Award in 2023. And he ends up entering the portal. There was a lot of talk about him going to the NFL draft. For a long time, it was either Iowa or the NFL draft. And then there were some schools that may have gotten involved, maybe Miami, maybe a couple others that, were potentially in there that haven't really became public to this point. But, there's a lot of chatter about that. And, Iowa was able to get the job done. I mean, in this day and age of NIL and, the Swarm playing a big part in this too, like, I don't know if Iowa was able to get this one done, but now with all this happening and, what Iowa has in NIL and just how aggressive they were in the transfer portal, they were able to land Gronowski. And, obviously some unfortunate news coming out last week that, he has to have off-season surgery and, won't be available for spring. But, there's a lot of optimism that it really won't be too big of a procedure. Yes, he's going to miss a spring, won't be able to do on-field stuff until June. And that's obviously a big drag. And I know a lot of Iowa fans were kind of having deja vu with the whole Cade McNamara situation. And obviously that's really frustrating. But, there's a lot of belief and a lot of optimism. And, that Gronowski will be fine from this. Like it won't be too big of a deal. Yes, he's going to miss some time, but, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a huge setback for him like it was with McNamara. And, Iowa was well aware of what Gronowski was going through. They agreed that, okay, it's probably a good idea to get that off-season shoulder surgery, get that thing all cleaned up, and, let's go to work. And, it's a nice thing now, too, because, they're going to have four quarterbacks that are going to be competing against each other in spring ball. You have Brendan Sullivan, who stayed with the program, Hank Brown, the transfer from Auburn. You have Jackson Stratton, who started 2 games this year for Iowa. Then you have true freshman Jimmy Sullivan, who's enrolling early and was with the program during bowl prep. So, it's a big difference from last year in spring ball where you just had Deacon Hill and Marco Linez. Like that's now you got 4 guys. And I think that's something that, Iowa is, really going to take in stride and are kind of like, okay, yeah, Gronowski's not there. We know he's going to be QB1. He's going to be able to learn. He's going to be able to adapt to the offense, but just not apply it. We still have a lot of guys that we feel like can, develop and really improve, and, kind of just get better as a whole as a quarterback room. And we just have a lot more bodies, under center too. And, I think they're still going to use Sullivan in goal line situations next year. And, Brown's a contender to compete for that starting spot in 2026. So it's not all doom and gloom with that, position, but, it's still, not as, you're not as like content with Gronowski being out, but I mean, hey, you got 4 guys that I think that can compete and, potentially, help elevate that position. And, Tim Lester's done a great job there. Now it's time to show it on the field.
So there's been some portal moves, but also any of the recruiting or NIL deals that I haven't brought up or you haven't brought up yet today, please, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, Caden Burr's been going to be a nice addition. Obviously, more of a developmental guy, has a big foot. That 57-yarder. I mean, it probably was good for more than 57 yards, but he'll be a guy that's going to be fun to watch develop. Then you have Sam Phillips with
Yeah, Sean, I've
Chattanooga,
seen
who
that video. Excuse me, I've seen the video that you're referencing. It looked like Burke could have made that from 65 yards, and I'm no,
yeah.
measurement specialist, but it sure looked good from quite a distance. Thank you for pointing that out. But continue on, please.
Yeah, no, and Phillips is a guy that Iowa really needed to add to this to the wide receiver room because they really need that speed. I mean, they had a lot of speed a couple years ago, or at least guys that were faster than some of the guys that they have in the room. But now it feels like they just have a lot of size. And one thing that Tim Lester has been really successful with throughout his time at previous spots has been speedy wide receivers, and that's what Sam Phillips brings to the table too. Had 78 targets last year, 50 catches, didn't record a single drop, was a really productive receiver in the FCS ranks for Chattanooga. Yes, it's going to be an adjustment to the Big Ten, but I was really excited about what he can bring to the table. And another recent addition, another South Dakota State guy, was Bryce Hawthorne, a defensive lineman from Minnesota, who was a Sports Illustrated Freshman All American last year for the Jackrabbits as a redshirt freshman. Was second on the team in total pressures and was really a pass rush specialist for Jackrabbits last year at the interior defensive tackle spot. And it's going to be fascinating to see how he kind of fits into Iowa's scheme next season, given that Aaron Graves comes back. They also added Jonah Pace from Central Michigan. You have Jeremiah Pittman coming back. Is Hawthorne kind of where does he kind of fit in there? Because then you have Yosei Epinesa too, the 5-star freshman, incoming freshman, who can probably be a pass rush specialist depending on, where you want to put him. Can you put him on the edge? Can you put him on the interior? He kind of is versatile to play either of those spots. So he's a really nice fit for Iowa up there. We've talked about Hank Brown before too. It's a very solid portal class. Like I think there's a lot of reasons to be intrigued about it. Obviously, you still got to get a corner. I think that's really the missing piece right now, and Iowa's going to be aggressive to get another guy in there. Maybe an offensive tackle. We'll kind of see. Well, that's something that may happen in the spring. We'll see what happens there. But those are the two positions that Iowa's focused on right now. And
Well, let's finish the recruiting conversation here with talking Hawkeye men's basketball. An in-state commit or a offer, not a commit yet, but only in his junior year. So let's talk about him and a few others, please, Sean, for Hawkeye men's basketball.
yeah, I mean they were able to. Iowa was able to get the portal started last week and landing Isaiah Johnson Origu from Miami. He was a 2024 recruit for Iowa, a top 150 guy at Totino Grace in Minneapolis. Went to Miami over Iowa. Had kind of a rough start to his freshman season for the Hurricanes. Obviously, Miami has had a really, really bad season so far, and is kind of struggling to find his role. And obviously, Jim Larinaga, longtime Miami head coach, ends up retiring mid-season, so that gives leeway for Miami players to enter the portal. And Johnson Arrigo entered the portal, and Iowa immediately became a favorite to land him, and the Hawkeyes were able to get him. Obviously, finishing second fiddle in the high school recruitment, they were able to win out in the transfer portal recruitment. So he has 3 years of eligibility remaining left. Really good kind of combo forward type, really defensive oriented guy. Has the ability to put the ball on the floor, get to the basket, create for others, shoot the three if he's open, really athletic too. And, kind of just add to that wing position for Iowa in the coming years. And, yeah, there were a couple other guys on campus this past weekend. Will Gertis, the forward from Cedar Falls, 2026 prospect, long, lanky guy, shooter. Isn't shooting that great this year, but is adding other parts of his game and has really high upside. Iowa's battling Nebraska there. And then the big visitor this past weekend was 4-star wing Joshua Lewis in the 2025 class, a former South Florida commit, decommitted from the Bulls following the passing of the former head coach. Iowa's kind of been working that one silently behind the scenes and is another really intriguing athletic wing prospect at 6'6", 6'7", has produced in the Nike UIBL with the Florida Rebels. Really good prospect that I think Iowa, if they can land, he would add a really, kind of an instant impact type to that wing spot with his athleticism and the ability to play the 2 or 3. Not necessarily a true combo guard, but more of a true wing. But he can also handle the ball a little bit, do kind of, his thing off the dribble and shoot and, create with his athleticism as well. And, Iowa assistant coach Tristan Spurlock has done a really good job with that recruitment. And, a couple of the top competition right now is NC State and Texas A&M. So, Iowa's kind of working their way in there. The only known visit that he's taken so far is to Iowa City after he decommitted from USF. So that's a good sign for Iowa right now. But we'll kind of see how that works out. But I think Iowa's in a really good position there.
Sean, great stuff, and thank you, folks. That's why he's the recruiting specialist right there for CBS Sports 24/7 Sports. Also, Hawkeye beat writer for Hawkeye Athletics. And when we come back and for segment two, Sean's going to stay over, kind enough to agree to stay with us and talk Hawkeye men's and women's basketball for this season. So, Sean, buckle up. You ready to go for another one?
Yes, sir. Always ready.
I love it. I love it. As am I. So he's Sean Bock, again, beat writer for Hawkeye Athletics, 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hawkeyed is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kieski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeyed and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to have our buddy Sean Bock staying over for segment two. Did a great job in the first segment talking Hawkeye football recruiting, Hawkeye men's basketball recruiting. So now we're going to talk Hawkeye men's and women's basketball for this current season. Sean, of course, covers all things Hawkeye sports for 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. But I wanted to talk to you about these last two games specifically, with Nebraska, the overtime victory, and then also the Indiana shellacking the Hawks put on Indiana last Saturday night at Carver Hawkeye Arena. But the 2 second halves that Peyton Sanford's put together, not that his comments are very telling, Sean, after this Indiana post-game presser, when he said, it's going to take some time for me to get into these games sometimes because the other guys are now finding openings. And if I can be the quote-unquote decoy, and then by the time the defense slacks off a little bit in the second half and has to pay attention to Josh Freeman and others, Drew Thelwell, huge kudos to him. Sean, this is working out well for Peyton and the Hawkeyes, where Josh Dixon's been able to keep a steady stream of shots going the whole game. Peyton's been second half. Hopefully we can make it a full game with Peyton, but my goodness, I thought there was a little method to the madness there when Peyton described that, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Peyton, one of the things that I've always seen is he's been really, since high school, he's really been good as kind of that off-ball, like secondary guy. Like, I don't think he's ever been the primary ball handler. It's like, okay, we need to get the ball in Peyton's hands, force it into him. And I think that's kind of the role that he maybe thought he was playing to start the year. He kind of felt the need to play. When I think that's more of a Josh Dix type of role, or Drew Thelwell or Brock Harding type of role, where it's like, okay, we need to get the ball in this guy's hands and watch him go. That's not really Peyton's game. Peyton's game is more of that kind of secondary off ball guy. He can put the ball in the deck, obviously, and he can create, but that's not his game. And I think a lot of times he's been forcing the issue. And we've seen just how much more comfortable he is coming off the catch, coming off screens, kind of working around, playing within the offense, rather than being like, okay, I have the ball in my hands, I need to go. It's more like, okay, let's just like see how the play develops and, go from there. So I think that's really worked in his favor, just, being more patient, being just more comfortable, like in that role as kind of that off ball secondary guy, which he's had so much success with throughout his career and has got him to this point. And, I think it's really been nice to see a guy like Josh Dix who is able to do a lot more off the dribble. And, I think having Drew Thelwell back is a significant development because he is so good at getting into the lane, getting into those driving lanes and, making stuff happen from there. So, yeah, to have Peyton be at the level that he's been playing at is a huge plus. And also remember, too, like he was dealing with a wrist injury towards the start of the season. I think that really was lingering for quite some time. And I think that was really bothering him. And now that he kind of really seems to be more comfortable with it, or at least has, improved his condition, that's really helped with his game and really helped this Iowa offense as a whole because, he just looks so much more comfortable out there. And, the numbers show, I think it's Iowa's 29 of 54, something like that from three of the last, two games. I think they have shot a little bit more than that, but it's a really impressive mark. And, a big reason for that is Peyton Sanford and Josh Dix. And obviously, it's going to be tough to keep that, kind of stats on the road, but, if they can, at least, have something at nature, or at least have something in a positive direction because, I really like the way that Peyton's playing. And, if he can continue this and just like be himself and, be patient when he needs to be, like, I think Iowa's going to be trending in a really positive direction.
With this Hawkeye team, Sean, 12-4 and 3-2 in the Big Ten. Now we transition into the talking Hawkeye women's basketball. They're 12-5 going into Thursday night's game against Nebraska. Again, the viewers will know the result of that game by the time this airs, but 12-5 and alarmingly a little bit. I don't want to be speak hyperbolically, but 2-4 in the Big Ten. This team is better than that, Sean, and they've struggled. And besides this Nebraska game upcoming, by the time we record next Tuesday, the Hawkeyes will be out on the West Coast playing Oregon and UW. Other, nearly ranked or ranked teams like Nebraska, the Hawkeye women are no longer ranked in the AP Top 25. Coach Jan has talked about her veterans maybe pressing a bit too much and her 4 freshmen getting significant time and playing very well.
Turnovers have been a really big issue. And I mean, it's also just, I feel like, we've in fan base has just been so kind of, used to the Caitlin Clark and the Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin kind of being able to bail Iowa out in certain situations. It's really not. That just hasn't really been the case this year. We've known that Lucy Olson is not going to be the type of player that Caitlin Clark is. But also it comes down to, who's going to step up alongside her, because that's a really important part in this game too. And I think we kind of realized too, yes, Jan Jensen has been on the staff for a really long time, but, there was going to be an adjustment period, once she took over as the head coach. And, it's a totally different situation, being in that top assistant seat to being in that head coaching seat. So, yeah, it's going to take some time, but, they've really talked about it too. It's it's January 12th on Sunday. It's still a long season. Yes, I get it, but I also don't like that a ton because, yes, it's a long season, but you've played some games that, you really need to win. And, I still think this team is an NCAA tournament team, but, they're looking more of an 8-9 seed right now, as opposed to a, 3 or 4 seed, which I think a lot of people expected them to be coming into this season. And, yes, there's still time to right the ship a little bit, but, it's a positive that you're getting this from your freshmen, but also, it's not the worst thing in the world that you're not getting these from your upperclassmen, because you've seen these upperclassmen, do things in a positive light in previous years. And, you have a good feeling that they'll be able to turn it around, but it's you just need to see it. That's a big thing for me. You just need to really see it. Maybe if it was more freshmen doing this, I would get it. But yes, the upperclassmen kind of not producing is a little bit concerning, but maybe it's just a lull in the season, or maybe this is a spot where you can kind of turn things around, and kind of use it as motivation a little bit, or kind of the kick in the butt that they need, losing the last 3 games. So yeah, it's definitely not a positive trend right now, but I think we kind of expected this, some sort of, I guess, not downfall, but some sort of downgrade, or some sort of lower expectations going into this year than last year. And maybe it's better that they're doing this now instead of towards the end of the season.
That's it right there. And like you said, use it for motivation. And season is not lost. But to your point, it doesn't matter when they're played. A Big Ten game is a Big Ten game. You got to have those conference games and can't give them away. And let's not forget, in February, Caitlin Clark will be back to get her jersey retired on February 2nd. And USC and Juju Watkins will be in town. So a lot of other big games coming up, to your point about it only being January 14th today, or referencing back to last Sunday on January 12th. Sean, great stuff from you as always. Thanks for the great tidbits on recruiting for Hawkeye football and men's basketball. Also talking men's basketball and women's basketball. It's great to see you again, folks. And there he is, Sean Bock, recruiting specialist and beat writer for Hawkeye Athletics with CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. Sean, great to see you again. Thanks so much, my friend.
Yeah, Dave, thank you for having me.
Always my pleasure. For Sean Bock, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more to close out Hawkeye. Scott Pritchard, Scotty P will be joining us in our sports betting segment. Back with more in just a few moments.
You don't have a lot of time to make decisions today if you want to be out front with the newest products. This is Joe Mershman from Mershman Seeds. Did you know that we're one of the first 2 companies to offer Enlist E3 soybeans in the United States? And because of that, you benefit from it. Here's Ben Pieper to tell you more.
With Enlist E3 soybeans, we have a front row seat to the highest yielding germplasm that's on the market. That allows us to focus on the things that matter to you, making sure you get what you ordered delivered on time to ensure the highest yielding soybeans for your farm.
Contact your local Mershman Seeds dealer today. They care and are ready to help you.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Scott Pritchard, Scotty P, a Northeast Iowa native as I am. Scotty P, a professional, successful, full-time professional sports bettor in Vegas for the past 31 plus years. Again, at Pritchard Wins via social media or PritchardsPicks.com. Check out that fantastic Let's Bet show he hosts. Talk to us a little bit about the contest results and what could have, should have been, what might have been, Scotty P.
Well, I'm glad it's over. It's an emotional grind. It's time consuming. I love it. I like it. I want some more of it. But now you know why, after 6 months of betting football day in, day out, college football sides, totals, money lines, contests, deadlines, radio, TV. I'm not complaining. I chose to eat this frog, but you might understand why after the Super Bowl, I'm heading to LA to see the Lakers play on Tuesday, Clippers play on Wednesday against my Memphis Grizzlies, and then I'm off to the Philippines and then Thailand for not 1, but 2 months to decompress, chill, relax. I'll still be betting. I'll still be posting on PritchardsPicks.com. But to your point, my good friend, I did take 3rd place and 7th place in the Golden Nugget Ultimate Challenge contest. And in the Circa Invitational, they expanded the field, the World Championship, from last year 16 contestants to this year 25. Last year I took 3rd. This year I came within a half game of 3rd place, placing and cashing, but ultimately came up a little bit short. I did, this is a contest, as you know, they cut people after X number of weeks. So I did survive every cut. I did make the Elite 8. So close, but yet so far 126 games and a half game is the difference. Are you kidding me?
Amen to that. So let's get to current action, my friend. We've got the NFL playoffs going on. You and I have talked about this many times in the past, and now we're down to the Final Four in each conference, the American Conference and National Conference. A lot of Hawkeyes still in the NFL, still alive in the playoffs. A lot of former Hawks. Sam Laporta being the one. We talk about prop bets a lot, Scotty P. Sam Laporta would be one of those guys for the Lions. Another big year. Of course, TJ Hawkinson, again, as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, January 14th, the Vikings lost last night, but Hawkinson had a big prop night last night, tight end, formerly of the Hawkeyes, now with the Vikings, and by the way, formerly of the Lions. But Hawkinson had a big prop night last night. So that sets me in motion, Scotty P, to talk some, besides the games you're going to be betting on, over-unders, spreads, money lines with the teams that are still alive. Let's you and I take a moment to talk a little bit about props again, and obviously former Hawkeyes like Laporta.
Yeah, there's opportunity there. The sports books, for all intent and purpose, they really hone in on the point spread, the side, the total, the money line. But I'm a big proponent of betting props. And, the Super Bowl, you have 500 different ways to bet the game. I hardly ever bet the total or the side, but I will bet 5 to 7 props each and every year. Same way here. You're looking at a myriad of options, a buffet of options. And when you look at the tight end position for the Lions, and you're looking at total receiving yards, I'm telling you, the Lions caught a major break. I mean, they're basically getting a bye this week, taking on a rookie quarterback that's on the road. I expect the Lions to hold serve. I expect the Lions to win the game. But when we look at props, I think you almost have to lean on the under because, with the guy from the University of Iowa, the tight end for the Detroit Lions, I mean, respectfully, the Lions are not going to be passing the ball in the 3rd and 4th quarter when they're up 30 points.
You hope that that's the case for the Lions as a team, as you mentioned, with Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders coming to town. And then, of course, you got the Eagles and the Rams. It's interesting to me, Scotty P, that we talk about coaching departures and arrivals, but now New England has hired Mike Vrabel, formerly of the Titans, a former Hall of Fame, a legendary Patriot, and a Hall of Fame Patriot at that, and the Patriots Hall of Fame. Vrabel back as the coach now, as we know, Belichick now at North Carolina, at University of North Carolina as the head coach. Your Las Vegas Raiders, I thought there for a minute, because Brady is part of that ownership group, was just smiling with me, that maybe Belichick would go to the Raiders, but he already committed and is already in the head coaching seat at North Carolina. But let's you and I talk CFP then now. Let's go with Ohio State, Notre Dame. I know that you've taken a look at a few of the early lines over under for the total, but also the spread or the money line. How are you looking at this game when it comes to Ohio State and with Notre Dame, the CFP coming up next Monday, or this upcoming Monday, January 20th? How are you looking at that game, Scotty P?
How exciting is this going to be? You've got the Ohio State Buckeyes who can beat you so many different ways. They can run, they can pass, they play great defense, they're proven, they're well coached. The point spread. That's the great equalizer. Notre Dame, guilty of playing a cupcake soft schedule, but they've been world beaters during the playoff format here for college football. When in doubt, take the points. I'm not in doubt, and I love the points. Notre Dame, Fighting Irish +8. Are you kidding me? How do these sports books stay open? Yeah, Ohio State, they're locked and loaded, but to win by double digits, I think not. See the cashier.
My friend, great to see you. And I look forward to catching up with you very soon, Scotty P. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Truly my pleasure. For Scott Pritchard, Sean Bock, and my production partner, Greg Kajewski at Better Edge, via social media at betteredge.com. That's all from us at Hawkeyed. Thanks to all of you.